are there any implications of race, given that Beyonce is black? And if you notice, everyone in the diner, it's very kind of multicultural, so it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Beyonce's presence is a little fraught. I mean, initially, I do agree that she makes the song that's really fun. Particularly, but in the video, I noticed that often when she's figured, and there's two specific moments, this is really true. And in the car, Gaga is taking this Polaroid picture from the side, and so she's being sort of, frozen, like sort of framed in a moment, right? And then at the end, sort of when they're just repeating the refrain a couple of times, she's in the hotel room, and they're applying that sort of shaky effect to her, which is applied, basically based on my viewing, a lot more to her than it is to anyone else. It's certainly applied to Gaga a couple of times, but it's definitely much more marked on her at the end. So I sort of was wondering if perhaps that tendency to make her look sort of comical almost, but also frozen and repetitive, is some sort of comment on her being, as I think you said earlier, sort of an older style of singer that represents sexuality and gender in a more sort of male gaze oriented way than what Gaga is doing. It certainly would be very subtle to say that, but I think that could be something.
Anyone have a response, either on the panel or in the audience? Yeah, sure.
Just to add to the Beyonce question, I think it's pretty significant that it's Beyonce freeing the stereotypical sort of white girl kind of from the prison. I think it's a pretty big statement. Might be kind of integrated, but.
Great. Does anyone have a response to that question? I think just in the interest of time, you guys can definitely linger after. We're going to take these last three questions, and then you guys can definitely, first panelists can talk to me. I guess we'll start. You haven't asked a question yet, or okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask, but I'm not sure how much was said by Gaga or not, but there were a lot of sort of references to following the lead in the music video, which is speaking to the state of suicide, but the identity racially of the woman in prison, as far as like you see these movies, huge frozen, like then it's kind of left, that scene is gone, and they go to the diner, it's like almost unbelievable, spread of like racially different people, and it's like this image of the middle America. So it's like everyone's like this idealistic and completely contrary notion of what society could be in this place and time. Also, as far as Beyonce wearing, what she wears is basically Gaga's idea of like what a woman's costume should be. She wears the same garb, she wears glasses, even the yellow dress, which is like so gorgeous on Beyonce, it's still a Gaga dress. This notion of conformity, even to Gaga's ideas of what sort of like American morals and what people should be, is still sort of through a Gaga lens. And the idea most of the way that through all this, like Gaga and Beyonce are the same label, and it's not like Gaga calling Wonder Bread being like it'll be free. It's rooms and rooms full of media coaches and PR people, and they're a huge label, it's not just her. So whatever's being said, even that's being filtered. So this notion that what Beyonce is doing isn't what Beyonce is doing, it's what her label wants them to do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought the idea that you have about the people in the diner being representative of America is important, because then right after they all die, then Beyonce and Lady Gaga are wearing American flags. So it's kind of like they're trying to make a new America, or trying to symbolize what they want America to be, which is interesting that you say it could be conforming to Gaga's ideals, which would make it problematic.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you guys haven't addressed like the issue of fame, and that's like her whole thing is she's doing it all to be famous, and how conscious she is of all her choices. And maybe you're saying they're all empty, but you're talking about all of them still. And through that process, like in her being conscious of this, is that political in a sense, or how? Why wasn't fame talked about? Because whenever you asked her what she's doing this for, it's for fame. not money per se, because she's always like, I put all my money back into my art.
Well, this just feeds into my point about how she commodifies the gender revolution for her own purposes. I mean, like, sure, we can, I mean, I'm sitting here just, like, making up stuff about what, you know, the different images in her
Isn't that
videos mean.
indicative of what we want to see? And her knowing this, that she is codifying this.
That she knows she has to leave her hair completely.
I mean, like, even if she knows that she's commodifying it, that doesn't mean
And she's
that it's
doing it
not
to
true.
like a hyper.
I mean, but that doesn't mean it's not true just because she knows that I'm doing it. Like, that she knows that she's doing it. Like, I can know that I'm, like, doing something and you can see me do it, but just because I'm, like, doing it on purpose doesn't mean that my act is not still tangible.
Don't you? I feel like she does it to such an extent that you become aware of this act and norm. Whereas Beyonce, you're just like, oh, this is a Beyonce video. Whereas Gaga is more sexualized and she intentionally over-sexualizes herself more so than even hypersexualized Beyonce in every sense. So through that process, us talking about her sexualization, like, leads us to talk about this whole process in pop music.
It leads us to question what makes pop music. So it's
I
a
agree with
discussion.
it. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're sitting here questioning it.
So isn't that a good? So it's like makes us
Yeah,
question.
Brian, did you?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting relationship you're talking about. It's something that I've thought about particularly. I mean, I think that being sort of self-conscious or like sort of, I'm thinking of the correct word, but sort of performing her own sort of rise to fame and so and like critiquing it and then like doing, for instance, the fame monster thing, which is talking about these are the evils of fame and like why, you know, the problems with it. I guess I'm a little bit more cynical. I don't find that to be necessarily productive or positive. I think she's smart. I think she's really smart, and I think that brings a lot of attention to her. And it's something that we don't normally get in pop stars, that sort of intellectual sort of sense. But I also think that it's funny that you're right that we were talking about that. I think that a lot of people who listen to her music don't get any of that. Like don't aren't on the same wavelength, for instance. And I actually in my paper wrote about this idea that I had of like sort of a lo-fi hi-fi thing with her, and that sort of cosmopolitan people have this sort of, and I'll say queer, but I don't mean queer in terms of sexuality, I just mean sort of being, like, for instance, in New York, is sort of understanding that, hey, like, she's giving a little bit of drag, like, performance, for instance, and you would know that by going to school or putting her on, hopefully. You know, that what drag is and what, you know, that she's referencing certain things, so she's giving a little bit of Grace Jones sometimes, like, that sort of thing. I think that, you know, I'm reminded of a time I was riding in the car with my younger brother, who's very straight, very athletic, and very not cosmopolitan in South Carolina. And Just Dance comes on his iPod, and I was like freaked out because it was like, this is what I go to like, you know, the club for, like to like, oh god, and why is my like little brother listening to this? And for him, she's just a hot girl. I asked him, I was like, why is this on your iPod? He was like, oh, she's just hot, dude. And it was just really interesting to see like the disconnect between that. So I think the genius of her is that she invites that type of interpretation and probably is very happy that, that we're here talking about it, but at the same time I think her music is you know, hip enough that it sells to feel it on.
Yeah, sure.
I also read an interpretation of her video in which she's in prison because she's trapped by what pop music wants her to be, and then she breaks out of that and critiques that. Like, if you want to take it that way, I think you could for that.
I mean, it is that one. The reason she kills the man in paparazzi is because she's not on the front cover of the magazine. That's the reason why. And they said the knee wig curl, which is when she decides to put the poison in the teapot.
Right. I mean, but I think you could read it a lot of different ways. But that's, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for coming out. If you want to come to the panelists, if you want to know more about CPU, definitely come talk to me. But thank you so much for your